and joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well. Welcome, my friends, to this little radio program known internationally as Smokin' and Toastin'. My name is Cruze. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. But wait, there's more. Today's show is also about wine.
That's crazy. We've never done a wine
We've never
show.
done a wine show. Welcome.
We're just being whiny today.
To my friend and co-host, Ian Barry. Ian, this is show number 146, and the first time we have actually done a show where we're featuring wine. And the reason for that, I think, is actually pretty simple. Although I do love wine, I know so little about it because there's so much to know. You know what I mean?
Same here.
That I would feel kind of silly sort of going, hey, come on, tune into my wine show. You know what I mean? Like, it would be, it'd be like, I like wine. You know, that'd be it. This wine is good. That's about all I could do. So we've brought an expert on board, and he is going to be joining us here in a moment. I do want to tell you that we're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, BB Italia on Memorial in Houston, and BB Lemon on Washington Ave, and a new BB Secret Creation opening soon.
Yeah, so that's some pretty neat news.
That's gonna be some cool stuff. So we'll tell you about that as it unfolds. Welcome to number 146, and a big thank you. Speaking of B&B, by the way, a big thank you to Jeremiah. From B&B, Jeremiah Butler, who was our co-host with me last week because Ian was on location.
I was on location.
Yeah, so before we get into our guest and get into this wine stuff, tell me a little bit about your adventures, Ian Barry.
Well, so first off, I did watch the show last week, so if anyone out there is watching this,
I knew you were there
saw
because
me commenting.
Yeah, the snide comments were increased somewhat last week because I was seeing your comments.
So we flew into Vegas, and one of our first stops is we went over to the Forum Shops over at Caesars.
Yep.
And went to Casa Fuente.
Yeah.
And I had one of their exclusive cigars there. It was absolutely fantastic. Sat there and had drinks, as I sent you pictures. I believe you even
it was
showed
wonderful.
the camera a picture. That was a great time. So that was a lot of fun during the show. And then the next day, I went and registered for the IPCPR.
Which is the big retail convention of pipe and tobacco realtors. Although they're changing their name, it's now going to be a lot shorter. But anyway, we'll get to that.
It will now be known as the event formerly known as the IPCPR.
That's right. But you somehow found your way in.
Yeah, I snuck my way in. We went to the general... the opening party on Friday night,
right,
which was a blast, and it was a who's who. Everyone was there. We ended up meeting a whole bunch of people, had a great time.
You in the middle of a cigar convention? No.
Yeah.
Next thing you're going to tell me you were drinking whiskey.
Right. You walk into this place and they just give you whiskey and cigars.
Yeah.
Totally terrible place to hang out.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can see how it was a real drag for you.
So it was the launch of Cohiba's new Connecticut, which it was a little underwhelming to me, but it was a free cigar and it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
So, but the nice thing is, all the cigar reps were there, so everyone's like, "Well, if you're not enjoying that so much, here, have one of these."
Yeah.
Of course, I ran into Alan Denny a bunch of times. You'll see some videos of some of this stuff too, because at the convention, I just had a blast. Ran into Matt Booth a few times.
Yeah.
And he was always
probably
fun.
stalking you because Matt Booth has a thing for you. Let's just say it right now. Matt Booth
likes bears.
Yes, he does. That's our.
Yeah, no, he was a lot of
slogan.
fun. So yeah, I even got a little short snippet of an interview with him. Basically, so when I went and snuck my way into the convention itself on Saturday, I ran into quite a few people that we've known and have had on the show. Justo was there. Alan Denny was there, of course. Met a bunch of people. One of the fun interviews I had was the Cigar
Oh, the Cigar rep. Yeah. Oh,
and
awesome.
he's actually the local rep, the Houston and Dallas area rep. Houston, Austin, Dallas area rep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was pretty cool showing us some of the new stuff that he's got. I was really excited about all the accessories there. That was super cool because you don't always see that. A lot of shops don't carry a ton of accessories. Some shops carry very minimal. So you don't get to see like all the coolest crazy stuff. So there was some actually pretty cool things there, and I was buzzing in and out of all the different booths and trying to get just a couple minutes with people.
Right.
You know, I was trying to be as unobstructive as possible. Ran into the guys from Half Wheel. They were pretty cool. Both of them were exhausted.
I bet.
They're like, I wish I was just walking around with an iPad. They were both like, those were the days, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I'm amazed actually that you were able to just move so freely about in the presence of all those.
Everyone
cigar
was
royalty.
so fun there. Like everyone is like only. So a couple of the booths were a little less approachable because they were just so busy. You know, Acid especially. The Acid booth was hilarious because it was huge and it was just a disco party the entire time. As you can imagine, like that would be. I ran into a couple interesting things. Benchmade Knives was there. Apparently they've been there for 15 years.
Nice.
They've showed up there and just as a part of the culture, 'cause, knives and cigars go kind of well together. They had some beautiful stuff. I ended up chatting with those guys for a little while. That was a lot of fun. There was a lot of new stuff there. We'll be spreading out these interviews over the next bunch of programs, I'm sure.
Next number of shows.
And like I said, a lot of them were real short. They were like 5 minutes or less. I just would, if I could get a few minutes with a guy. I got Robert Holt from Southern
nice.
Draw.
Nice.
He was super cool, super nice guy. I ran into just tons of people. Tom Poehler was there. I mean, tons of people we've had on the show. It was a great time, and everyone was so happy to see us, and I was so happy to see everybody. So
I can't imagine that you have an affirmative answer to this, but did you smoke anything interesting lately?
So I did. It's funny because yesterday I had that Trinidad. That was a great cigar.
Yes.
That was over at Stogie's. That was Jorge's recommendation, and I enjoyed that. And I thought I could sit down and write up a review on that, but I didn't. I actually sat down and smoked a pipe this morning.
Did you?
Yeah, I brought out one of my fancier looking pipes. It's a Nording Freehand, and it is a absolutely beautiful pipe. And I pulled out my 2009 Special Reserve Peterson tobacco.
Okay.
And had that, and it's a Virginia base tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
And then so Virginia based tobacco, the Virginia tobaccos in a pipe format are a little bit cigarette-y, if that makes any sense. It has a little bit of that kind of
that sort of tobacco
fresh
flavor to it,
cigarette kind of tobacco, but not just like a cigarette, but a little bit like that. And then it also had some brown and black Cavendish to sweeten it up. Now Cavendish is a fermented tobacco that really brings in a lot of sweet flavors, especially like vanilla, and it makes the room note just absolutely amazing. This is the kind of tobacco that when you light it up, everyone around you goes, that smells so good.
Right.
And inevitably someone goes, my grandfather used to smoke a pipe.
Right.
Every single time.
That seems to be a thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, every single time. So I just sat outside and I decided, no cigar this morning. I had 2 cigars yesterday, and that was okay, and I just felt like a pipe today. So the 2009 Peterson Special Reserve, you can't buy it. It was a 2009 edition. I have some left. There should be pictures going up on there.
Got to hit you up
the
for
tin.
it. Is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it was
Find
absolutely
Ian
fantastic. I just sat
Ian
down
and get him to
enjoyed
share.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I enjoyed something really interesting this week, and I also smoked the Trinidad that you were talking about yesterday, and we'll get to a review of that because it was spectacular. But wanted to mention a cigar that I had this week, which was the Romeo San Andres by Romeo and Julieta. This was the Robusto, which was a long Robusto, and it was a gorgeous and very dark colored cigar, darker than most Maduros, almost like an Oscuro looking wrapper. It seems like I keep reviewing cigars on the show that Adam gave me. Maybe it's because he makes great gift choices. I don't know, but he gave me this one for Father's Day, and I had it sitting in the humidor for a little while and smoked it a little bit earlier this week. I had heard good things about this particular cigar before Adam got it for me, but I had not heard up until he told me that it was blended by guess who?
Oh, it had to be
AJ Fernandez.
You're
Yep.
such a fanboy.
I am. I'm a card-carrying AJ fanboy. So I was super excited to try it. Pre-light was all earth and richness. It was we talk about cigars sometimes having an earthy aroma to them, especially before the pre-light. If what I would usually describe as earthy was a 1, this was like a 5.
Oh,
it
wow.
was just like way earthier than normal on the pre-light. There were probably some other notes in there, but it was so earthy that was all I could really
what came through,
all I could really pull out of it. So I used a punch. I lit it up. It was one of those cigars I knew I was going to like this right away from the very beginning. The wrapper, by the way, was a dark Mexican San Andres wrapper with Nicaraguan binder and Nicaraguan and Dominican fillers. The earthiness that I got on the pre-light, it was there from the very first puff, and it really never let up the whole time that I smoked the cigar. Other notes did start to weave their way in and out, though, which kept it really interesting. There was this very pleasant kind of a charred wood flavor, but not in a bad way, in a really nice aromatic way that hit after about an inch in or so. And I also started to get some dark chocolate. By the last third, here came the pepper. It really had settled in, and it was wonderful. To be honest, I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a really, really good cigar. It burned a tiny bit unevenly, but not to the point where I felt like I needed to touch it up. I let it go and smoked it right down to the nub. Okay, I admit, I like AJ's stuff. I admit it. That said, this one stood out as being quite a bit different from the other AJ creations that I usually will smoke. I loved it. I think about an $8 to $9 cigar retail, so price to quality, I landed at a 6.5. And
nice.
We'll explain to Mark, our guest, our price to quality structure in a moment. But basically, Mark, for the show here, we use a 1 to 10 scale, but 5 on the scale means, and we don't rate everything this way, but we always do with the cigars at least. 5 means that you got exactly what you paid for. So if it's an $8 cigar, smokes like an $8 cigar, and it's really, really good, 5 is a great rating. If it gets a 6 or a 6.5, that means we actually wouldn't have been upset if we'd had to pay, $9, $10,
more, yeah.
$12 for that. If it gets less than a 5, means we didn't feel like it was quite worth the money. Could still have been good,
right?
But not quite maybe worth the price, depending. So I'm sure that's probably true in wine too. And wine is the reason that we have asked Mark to come on the show today. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much. I'm happy to be here.
It is really nice to have you. You are the beverage director for the Rainbow Lodge.
That's right.
Just for the uninitiated among us, what does a beverage director do exactly?
All right, so what I do is everything that you can sip, I handle.
Okay.
And that's bottled waters, that's hot teas, that's all the bar, the cocktails in the bar.
Cocktails as well as the spirits that are
absolutely
on the shelf.
right. And then the wine list as well. I handle the creation and the curation of the cellar and our list. And that involves a lot of tasting.
Well, that's a
Worst part of the job.
Yeah. Right? A lot of people ask us why we started the show, and we tell them it's really a very simple one-word answer. Samples. Yeah, that's exactly why we started the show.
My life isn't bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not tough to come to work and do this. How long have you been with Rainbow Lodge?
Almost 4 years now.
Okay.
Rainbow's been around for 42. We'll celebrate 42 years at the end of the year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
For any restaurant, bar, establishment to last that long is like defying the odds.
It really is a beautiful place. I remember going to the Rainbow Lodge when it was on the in the older location off of Memorial Drive,
right?
Which was really nice. And now I think that's become
Brenner's.
Yeah, Brenner's. And then you guys moved over to TC Jester
13 years ago.
And that's a beautiful location too.
It's stunning. It's a 115-year-old log cabin. It was built on site in what was at the time out in the middle of nowhere. And now, of course, we're in the middle of the
middle of everywhere.
And what's really amazing about that spot is when you walk in. First off, you have it really looks like a lodge.
Yeah.
Like that whole
has
ambiance is there. But the out back, you're in the middle of Houston here, and when you walk out back, you don't even feel like it because you get that beautiful outdoor with the water running through. It's really, really nice.
It's we see a proposal almost every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet.
Well, speaking of proposal, and it wasn't a proposal that happened, but I met Mark when he was involved with the Backstreet Cafe, and it was my first date with the woman that is now my wife.
Oh, nice.
Our first kiss was standing waiting for the valet to bring the car at the Backstreet Cafe, and that was where I met you. And my wife had actually known you for quite some time, and,
many years.
and had told me how knowledgeable you were about wine. So we've been talking about doing a wine show for a long time, and I thought, well, okay, if we're going to do a wine show, let's ask Mark and see if we'll go.
Well, I have to be honest with you. This makes much more sense to me now. Having not very knowledgeable about cigars and smokers, but the way you described that cigar, there's a lot of correlation, I think, to the winemaking. Maybe not the process, obviously, but how you described the actual construction. All those things make a difference.
The way the different notes come in
and out,
right,
and how you could have been talking about wine.
I think even in the way they're put together, there may be more similarities than you would think. Ian and I were invited to Honduras several months ago to go down to the tobacco farm and the rolling areas for the Aladino family for cigars. And there, it's many of the same things I think you hear about. I don't know as much about it with wine, but it's about terroir. It's about the way the different leaves of a different kind are combined and blended for a certain effect or for a certain flavor. It's about even the different where the leaves come from on the plant is different because of how much sun they get.
It's all very, very
there's
similar.
Different strains, and it makes me think of what little I do know about growing grapes and how the the soil is a big thing, and the soil on the shady side of the bluff is much different than the soil on the other side, and all of those kind of things that people who know wine know how to do.
If the grape leaves are covering the bunches and are shielded from the sun, that all makes a difference. It's very,
not
very
necessarily
awesome.
better or worse, just depends what you're going for.
Well,
right? Yeah, that's all right. All right, good. See, I'm going to say plenty of wrong stuff, so don't worry about going. No, that's not the way it works at all. So anyway,
I should have a buzzer and just no, sorry.
Actually,
here you go.
I think Ian has
you
one.
Can do this one. That's like one of my favorite sounds on here.
We have.
There you go.
You will notice, Mark, I know you've been on a few other shows and know you have a background in broadcasting as well, so you are undoubtedly really shocked and envious at our high-tech sound effects.
That's right.
And it's okay. We're used to that.
It gets the job done. That's
people. That's the way people do. The best is when Ian thinks he's hitting one button and he hits another completely different one.
This happens from
and it's
time
the
to
completely
time.
inappropriate.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. This is why the show is so highly rated.
This is the only reason you have me on here.
Yeah, it's why the show is so highly rated, except for the fact that I've only read one review and only about 1/3 of that because I didn't want to go changing just to please you, and that's the way it is. So Mark, you in addition to your job as beverage director, you've also been, explain this to me because I read this about you, that you've had one of the published top 100 wine lists for Wine Enthusiast magazine.
That's right.
How does that happen? And how did you do it?
Well, it was for a different restaurant for a restaurant that's not even open anymore. But they came in and read the list and pulled me aside and said, "Would you mind signing this waiver? We're with the Wine Enthusiast magazine." And I kind of looked it over and I was like, "Okay, I'm not sure what you're doing, but hey, any publicity, publicity is good publicity." And so they within a few months, I got an advance copy in the mail, and I was listed as one of the top 100 wine lists in the country.
That is so cool!
That's awesome.
Wow, that's really cool. And when someone's listed, is it about the magnitude of choice, or is it more about the careful curation of what you have?
I think it all depends on the concept. If you've got a small wine bar or a very niche concept as far as food is concerned in your restaurant, well, then you want to balance that with an appropriate size and breadth of list.
So it isn't about having thousands and thousands.
No,
of
I mean,
wines
now
necessarily.
the Wine Spectator restaurant wine list awards were just announced, for which we won.
Congratulations.
Again, thank you. And there are 3 different levels. One of them, the top one, which there was up until last week, there was only one restaurant in town that had it. Now there's 3. Which is quite an accomplishment for a city like this to have those 3 with a grand award. And what that entails is not only having tens of thousands of bottles of wine, but having depth in vintages, in verticals. In other words, many different vintages from the same producer or the same wine. Large formats and small formats for events and banquets and things like that. So a lot of that makes sense. And we at Rainbow Lodge have all of that. We just don't have the cellar that, say, a Pappas does. You know, our the depth and our. Let me go back. The average bottle price at Rainbow Lodge is about $150. So you don't have to go and spend $18,000 on a bottle of wine.
Right.
That's a handy thing to have, but it's just not something that the Rainbow Lodge does. We feel very strongly that you should enjoy your entire experience there, and it shouldn't cost a crazy amount.
And if you spend $18,000 on the bottle, either you're very wealthy or you may not enjoy your experience so much because you may be sitting there going, "Oh,
stressing about that."
Ouch.
And that's the thing, is that, you know, not only do I want you to have what you want, that I can help with, but I want you to I want it to be a value. I want it to be a good deal for you.
Having been there, I have to say the way the wine list is set up is really nice too, because you know, I don't know a lot about wine, so I can get kind of intimidated by wine lists because it's just too much. It's like I don't even know what I'm looking at a lot of times, and I just, you know, kind of go, here, wife, you choose.
Choose something.
But it actually was set up really nice the last time we were in there, and it made it really easy to choose something.
Well, and again, that's it goes to the point that not everybody. My occupation has some. There's some thoughts about people who do what I do, and that we're all trying to make you spend way more money than you should, and that kind of thing. What I'm known for, and what I'm trying to get out of this, is that you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you don't need, if you're uncomfortable chatting with me, you don't need to call me over. I don't have to go to the table and chat with you. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible for you to not only order something that you may not need to pronounce by the number,
or have number 18,
which also allows your guests not to know what you paid for it in case you need to.
Right.
You know, if you're surprising somebody with something nice, or you're on a budget and you don't want to
Don't want to be obvious about it,
right? That kind of thing. So,
well, and at fine dining restaurants, that's a real thing. Like you can feel a little overwhelmed if you're there for a special occasion and it's not generally in your price range at a place like that. That can be intimidating as well, and you don't want everyone knowing exactly what you're spending on everything. So that's a nice thing.
So there aren't many $40 bottles on the list at Rainbow Lodge, but the ones that are there are really, really. In fact, we're going to have one today. I feel are very high quality and great. So you don't have to feel bad about only spending $40, even though the average bottle is in the $150 range. And don't get me wrong, you can spend $1,500 at the lodge if you want to.
If you want to, sure.
I've got that.
There, yeah.
But it's certainly not necessary, and I'm going to be able to steer you. And if you do choose to chat with me, call me over. I'm happy to steer you in a direction that I think you'll be happy with.
Okay, I got a lot of questions, and I think this is a good time to take a break because I want to start the tasting before we get too much further into the questions. Yes, I am. So we'll take a break. We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. It is show number 146. It's the first Smoking and Toasting wine show with our special guest Mark Burrell from the Rainbow Lodge, and we'll be right back.